Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining Discover Puerto Rico's first industry update of 2021. My name is Xiomara Rodriguez, and I am the Communications Director for Discover Puerto Rico. On this industry update, Discover Puerto Rico's executive leadership team will share information and updates in the areas of research, marketing, and sales, as well as the strategies we have developed as the current situation evolves and new measures to safeguard the health and safety of visitors and locals are put in place. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's industry update will be translated simultaneously into Spanish. The slides we'll be using are available in Spanish on our industry portal, discoverpuertorico.com/industry. So you can download the presentation and follow along. In addition, this webinar is being recorded, and this week you will receive a link to the recording so you can replay at your convenience. After the presentation, we will have time for Q&A, but feel free to send your questions as we go. You can do so by using the Q&A feature, which is the bubble labeled Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Lastly, at the end of today's webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We want to continue providing you with up-to-date information on the topics that are most relevant to you during our webinars. So please fill out the survey. We want to hear from you. La presentación del día de hoy tendrá subtítulos o closed captions en español. Si usted desea activar la función de subtítulos en español, oprima en el botón etiquetado Closed Caption en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Elija la opción que dice Show Subtitles para ver los subtítulos en español. Si desean ver el tracto completo de la traducción, pueden seleccionar la función que dice View Full Transcript. La presentación que utilizaremos el día de hoy está disponible en español y puede ser descargada desde nuestro portal de la industria, discoverpuertorico.com/industry. Además, el seminario web del día de hoy está siendo grabado y más tarde esta semana recibirán un enlace con la grabación para que puedan repasar el contenido a su conveniencia. Por último, al final de este seminario web aparecerá una encuesta en su pantalla. Queremos seguir brindándoles información relevante sobre los temas que más le interesan durante nuestros seminarios web. Así que por favor, complete la encuesta al finalizar. Queremos escuchar sus opiniones. During today's industry update, you'll hear from our CEO, Brad Dean, Research and Analytics Director, Alicia Valentine, Chief Marketing Officer, Leah Chandler, Chief Sales Officer, Ed Carey, Leisure Sales Director, Francisco Blanch, and you will also hear from our guest speakers, Designated Secretary of the Department of Economic Development and Commerce, Manuel Sidre Miranda, new Chairman of Discover Puerto Rico's Board of Directors, Mr. Jose Suarez, President and COO for Foundation for Puerto Rico, Ani Mayol, and Oscar Alejandro Rodriguez and Anthony Rivera from Digiton Tech, who will be sharing about improvements and changes made to the travel declaration form that is filled out by all arriving passengers in Puerto Rico. So please stay with us till the end. This is very valuable information. Now to get things started, I'll leave you with Discover Puerto Rico CEO, Mr. Brad Dean.
Saludos y feliz año nuevo from your DMO, Discover Puerto Rico. I hope you, your loved ones, and your work team are safe and healthy. Likewise, I hope this new year brings you the same sense of hope and optimism that I have as we work together to ignite a full recovery of our tourism industry. You know, knowing all that you've had to endure in recent years, I don't think any tourism destination is more ready for a rebound than Puerto Rico. And while our industry is starting off the year well below typical levels of activity, there are many signs pointing to a recovery on the horizon. Pent-up demand for leisure travel continues to rise. An increasing number of likely travelers are currently consuming content to begin planning their next travel experience. More than half of all meeting planners are ready to resume meetings this year. More travel advisors than ever before are prepared to sell travel packages to Puerto Rico. And many US travelers won't be considering traveling to Mexico, Europe, South America, or other Caribbean islands due to current travel restrictions, positioning our destination as a timely alternative. Airline schedules for the spring season look very solid. Local businesses have embraced a wide array of protocols demonstrating that we are well prepared to ensure the health and safety of our residents and visitors. And perhaps the best news of all, vaccines are on the way. Our team will share more of these details with you in just a few minutes. You know, for me, this current situation reminds me of a very memorable boating trip I experienced several years ago. What began as a beautiful day with bright, warm sunshine and cool ocean breezes quickly changed, and we found ourselves unexpectedly in the midst of a terrible storm. The wind picked up, the sky became dark, the rain poured down hard, and huge waves were crashing against our boat. And for a while, it was a terrifying ride. But the captain of the boat had a plan, and he continued to confidently sail according to that plan. It got darker and windier, and the situation seemed to be getting worse, but the captain never stopped executing that plan, continuing to do what he knew was necessary. And at one point, in the midst of the storm, I looked over the front edge of the boat, and far off into the distance, I could begin to see the sun surrounded by blue skies. It was quite a ways off, but at least I could see that we were heading in the right direction. And I knew that calmer waters and warm sunshine were awaiting us. We continued to take the necessary precautions. We continued to move forward slowly and safely. And of course, we continued to follow the captain's plan. The situation in the boat at that moment hadn't changed, but our perspective had. And we knew that if we stayed the course and didn't lose faith or focus, that we were going to get out of that storm, and indeed we did. I think our industry is in a very similar situation today. We're still in the midst of a terrible storm, and for many of you, the thought of losing 2 back-to-back high seasons is hard to endure. Likewise, too many of our friends and neighbors are still out of work. But when we look ahead, we can see the sun is shining in the distance. I believe that our best days in Puerto Rico lie before us and not behind us. And I hope you share that perspective as we kick off 2021. At Discover Puerto Rico, we continue to operate through our COVID Recovery Action Plan. That plan is constantly evolving, and we continue to adapt and respond daily to changes in the marketplace. While not many people are traveling to Puerto Rico today, we continue to promote all that awaits travelers when they do decide to visit through our destination in light of current travel preferences. And of course, each of our marketing and sales tactics and activations are developed in perfect alignment with the same consistent brand positioning using sound relevant research and best-in-class industry standards. You know, that's something we promised you when we began, and we will continue to deliver upon that promise. And you'll hear more details about our marketing and sales strategies shortly. One reason I feel so confident that 2021 is going to be a year of recovery for all of us is the competitive advantages that Puerto Rico offers. Our value proposition is strong and appealing. Our vast array of unique experiences and amazing natural resources is perfect for the travelers who are seeking to connect with nature and avoid big crowds. Our rich, vibrant culture stands out amongst other Caribbean islands and key competitor destinations. Our island has been through many challenging times, and we know what it takes to come back from disaster. And we also know the importance of collaborating and cooperating to achieve success together. And you'll see examples of this today as we invite 2 key leaders, one from the public sector and one from the private sector, to help us kick off today's meeting. Secretary-designate Manola Sidre is no stranger to any of you and has demonstrated his passion and his commitment to our island many times over through his business savvy, innovative thinking, and his willingness to work with anyone and everyone to help ensure the success of Puerto Rico. Peco Suarez is also no stranger to you. Peco's career in the tourism industry encompasses great success in the hotel industry and also as a former director of the Puerto Rico Tourism Company. Peco was recently elected chairman of the board of directors for Discover Puerto Rico, and together with Tomas Ramirez, a hotelier from Cabo Rojo, they lead a group of more than 150 talented professionals who serve on our boards and committees. Growing tourism is a team effort, and we are humbled to be part of such a strong, experienced, and talented team. We're honored that Secretary-designate Sidre and Chairman Suarez are able to join us today to offer their thoughts as we embark upon this journey to make 2021 a year of victory and success for Puerto Rico. At Discover Puerto Rico, we consider it a great privilege to serve our island, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you and for you as we seek to grow tourism and our visitor economy to new heights. It won't be easy, it won't be perfect, and it may take longer than we would prefer. But you can be certain that your team at Discover Puerto Rico is prepared to do everything we can to promote, protect, and improve your business, your industry, and our island. Together, I am certain we're going to write another amazing comeback story, igniting a recovery in 2021 and paving the way for a better, brighter future for all of us. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Secretary Designate of the Department of Economic Development and Commerce, the Honorable Manolo Sidre.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Good morning, all. I'm very glad that we start this new year with this meeting, that we settle the path to move forward after the big challenges like hurricanes and COVID-19, among others, that our country and the rest of the world has gone through. As the Secretary of the Economic Development and Commerce of Puerto Rico, I feel strongly engaged with the businessmen and businesswomen in our island, with all small, medium, and big businesses, because they all make the economic wheel move on. I strongly believe in an active plan that integrates the different sectors of our economy around the island. The tourist industry is one of them. The DMO, the tourist company, and the tourist private sector engaged in this industry has done a great effort, which made possible see the light after Hurricane Maria and the earthquake. But COVID-19 struck more directly to the tourist industry because it's another way of spreading it. But with the adequate sanitary precautions, tourists do not have to feel left behind. It just must become stronger in terms of health protocols, which integrate open spaces and natural tourism. The tourism industry should be focused not only in the big hotel chains that are growing again, but also in the community, hostel, bed and breakfast, and every other type of tourism industry that will create many jobs and make the economic development reach many families in our country. If you ask me about integration, I believe we all should be integrated. The combination of knowledge and experience of different sectors will help to move forward the work that has to be done. We all must row towards the same shore at the same time. And that is exactly what I will promote and support, whether it is the DMO, the tourism company, the hotel industry members, or the small or medium-sized businesses. My time as a Secretary of the Department of Economic and Commerce Development of Puerto Rico will be used exactly for that, integrating every sector to work together to achieve the same goal. I don't have any doubts about it. Tourism will rise again gradually, especially after the population is vaccinated. Recently, our governor signed Executive Order 2021-01, through which Secretary of Health create, design, and execute a massive COVID-19 testing and educational campaign to mitigate infections and return to normal. Also, Puerto Rico continues to be an ideal place for any tourist development project. An example of that is the recently announced construction of the new hotels, Almost Homes in Condado and Trip by Wyndham in Maya West. Puerto Rico has a very competitive incentive under the new incentive codes. Some general benefits are 4% tax rate and 75% property tax exception, among others. Another important unique economic development opportunity is the air cargo and passenger transfer service waiver. According to the DEX Air Cargo Committee Action Plan version 109, September 30, 2020, Puerto Rico is the geographical epicenter of the Great Circle. This means that the island is in the crisscross of 16 high traffic routes between Europe and Latin America. This favorable position offers a great opportunity of interconnecting routes for these two continents by serving as a natural pit stop for long and international flights. In addition, the designated of the 98% of the Puerto Rico as opportunity zones allows qualified investors that pay taxes in the United States to invest capital gains taxes approved and qualified projects on the island. For Puerto Rico, major asset is its people and its beauties around the island that makes it unique. And we must work hard to position in a Caribbean pair as well as the connector of Las Americas. I believe in balancing health and economic, and in giving continuity to the project already started that are working. We must find a way for the economy to coexist with the people health, being the people health a priority. I expect the economy and tourism as a crucial part of it to start regaining ground by mid-2021 or during the third quarter of next year. My role will be focused on the efficiency of the management structure, administration, and transparency. The economic development of the country cannot be a strategy every 4 years, and we must measure whether X or J strategy worked or not. Leave that ones that work and change the one that doesn't work, and implement those that have worked in other countries with similar conditions. They are two very different things. For example, the federal funds, all that reconstruction that the governor wants to do, and that we are going to do. The joint that the jobs that we want to create. If that doesn't turn into permanent economic development, and if that doesn't become internal permanent wealth, it will then become an economic activity that expires, and we will have to change it for good. We acknowledge all the efforts you have made to keep Puerto Rico tourist industry alive and kicking no matter what. And deep in my heart, I recognize the excellent job of the DMO and the team. Feel free to count on me to develop a new recovery agenda with help to solve the present challenges and build a strong economic base for the future generation. I am counting in all of you and our success for Puerto Rico. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Sidra, for taking the time to be with us today. Now, in recent weeks, Discover Puerto Rico's Board of Directors welcomed a few new members as well as a new chairman. To share about his role and his vision for the future, let's welcome Discover Puerto Rico's Chairman of the Board of Directors, Mr. Jose Suarez.
Buenos dias to all. First of all, I would like to thank Manolo Sidre, Secretary Sidre, or Manolo as he prefers to be called, for participating and joining us in our first industry update of 2021, and for expressing support for our industry and for Discover Puerto Rico. I also want to take a moment to thank and acknowledge the great work that Brad and his team have done during these difficult times. Muchas gracias. We are all aware that the pandemic has provoked the worst crisis ever for the tourism industry across the globe. Locally, thousands of tourism employees have lost their jobs. Thousands of tourism-dependent businesses have shut down temporarily, and unfortunately, many have closed permanently. COVID has transformed our industry forever. However, it is important to recall that COVID is just one of the many crises we have faced in recent years. These multiple crises have altered the livelihood of our tourism business. We need to rebound not only from COVID, but also from the multitude of events that have affected our image and our demand in recent years. Contrary to other destinations, during normal times, we are blessed to have strong demand from the three main market segments: leisure, corporate, and groups. However, when demand, particularly in the leisure and groups segment, is altered or affected, it has a direct impact on many of our businesses. In fact, the last so-called normal year we had was back in 2015. Yes, almost 5 or 6 years ago. Since then, we have been hit with numerous events, starting with Zika in March of 2016. This virus provoked hundreds of group cancellations and a significant decrease in leisure business. Hurricane Maria, of course, hit us in 2017. And for the next year or so, including most of 2018, the few hotels that were open were full, but with mostly relief workers. We had very little leisure business and no group business. So tourism businesses that depend on those segments were greatly impacted. 2019 was a rebound year. Demand came back, leisure came back. However, the summer of 19 had a negative impact on the destination, on our image, and on demand. And in 2020, we had the perfect storm, starting with the earthquakes followed by COVID in March. Last year, all three segments were on hold. We saw only some local tourism, a little government-related business, and some budget-conscious leisure travelers. But not all is negative. I am optimistic about the second half of 2021 and beyond. We will come back strong and increase in demand from the leisure and groups segments. Corporations will also start loosening their restrictions, and that segment will also slowly come back. However, we as a destination have to compete for the attention of those future travelers. Our competitors will be extremely aggressive, trying to steal market share. To compete, we need to market Puerto Rico to the world, and that requires money. Given the current assigned budget to Discover Puerto Rico, we are at a major competitive disadvantage versus competing destinations. This graph shows the marketing budget of the Puerto Rico tourism company for a span of 15 years from 2003 to 2018. In summary, Turismo's marketing budget averaged 56 million, 56, of which an average of almost 27 million were invested in pure advertising. If you add to these Mid Puerto Rico's or the Convention Bureau's budget of around $5 million annually, and this reflects that our destination up to the year 2018 had more than 60 million budgeted annually to market the destination. Compare this to Discover Puerto Rico's 25 million. We can't compete. If we want to make up for all the negative events of the last 5 or 6 years, we must invest. We all know we need more money to be able to compete. Prior to the current fiscal crisis and the changes implemented by the Fiscal Control Board, Turismo had full control of its room tax and casino generated funds. Now it's a different ballgame, and to increase our funding, we must work with the executive and legislative branches. If we as an industry show signs of fragmentation, the government will not support us. Let me repeat, if we as an industry show signs of fragmentation, the government will not support us. We must unite with one voice to demand proper funding for our destination marketing. We all want leisure travelers and groups to fill our hotels, to eat in our restaurants, take tours, and visit our 28 towns and spend money in our stores. Demand from those segments can return strong, but only if we increase our funding to allow Discover Puerto Rico to attract our fair share of visitors to our island. Let's all together in one voice send this message to our government officials. Before I conclude my remarks, I would like to announce that we will be creating a local advisory board for Discover Puerto Rico. Although there is representation of multiple segments in the board of directors and in the marketing and sales committees, I want to create an additional forum for industry representatives to have a chance to share ideas with Discover's executive team. We envision a group of about a dozen individuals. If you're interested in participating, please contact Michelle DeLeo at Discover Puerto Rico or send me a note directly to my email at peco@bluehostpr.com. That's peco, P-E-C-O, at BLUHOSTPR.com. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Peco, for joining us today. Now, to share information about research and industry trends, let's welcome our Research and Analytics Director, Alicia Valentine.
Thank you, Xiomara. Well, certainly a year ago when we were attempting to understand the impact of earthquakes that were, how consumers were responding, we didn't know what was coming in terms of how our world was being shaken, both literally and figuratively. But occupancy slides that began in November continued into December across the US as well as in Puerto Rico. Of course, a period that typically sees our occupancy grow. With this, our RevPAR for that's revenue for per available room for the week of December 20th was down 79% from a year ago. This is the largest decline since the week of June 6th, which was the week before the government eased restrictions from the initial lockdown in March. The declining occupancy in Puerto Rico and the rest of the US coincided with the announcement of the efficacy of the vaccine. consumers are anticipating less short-term air travel than they were before the vaccines rollout was on the horizon. Our destination analysts' coronavirus sentiment research in October showed that 35% of consumers anticipated commercial air travel in the next 6 months. This past week, that number fell to 28.8%. More than a third of consumers continue to expect to travel, even for overnight trips, but 2/3 of those trips will be regional trips of 250 miles or less. So with consumers preparing for a final push to stay home before being vaccinated, there's been considerable fall off in the short-term booking pace. Since July, the year-over-year pace for hotels in the coming 3 months had averaged about 50% off the previous year. But that shifted in December with the announcement of coming vaccines. And last week's future booking forecast for the next 3 months has us off 68% from where we were in January of 2020. But of course, we're not the only ones here. Looking at a narrow competitive set that includes Aruba, the Bahamas, and Miami, our pace through March is very much in line with where other destinations are. Aruba did open to US travel in July and has not rolled back that opening. So with that, their year-over-year future booking pace has outpaced the rest of the competitive set for about the past 6 months. And though the Bahamas has been open, their pacing for January and February is off significantly, but is expected to rebound in March. And when we consider what the rental market looks like, the competitive position is a bit different, with Puerto Rico properties faring better than other destinations. But this is notable because these losses tell a very different story than just a few months ago. Until mid-November, rentals across Puerto Rico were faring far better, with some months of 2020 even seeing rentals above their 2019 pace. This hopefully illustrates a little more clearly how hotels and independent rentals are aligned in the coming months. That's not to say that's positive. However, it does confirm that consumer sentiment is pulling back on travel through the rest of Q1. So with this, the airlines are responding to these shifts as well. We've seen a lot of movement in recent weeks with cuts in capacity, especially in January and February. And about a third of inbound seats have been cut in those months. But for March, we're only seeing about a 4% decline in seats. It is encouraging that seats are continuing to be added for April. We know that airlines are making flight changes about 6 to 8 weeks out, so these numbers will likely shift as well. But that these seats are not just holding but growing is encouraging. And of course, that seat capacity is closely tied to anticipated vaccine distribution. So the most recent timeline anticipated that April was when it was expected that the vaccine would start becoming available to young, healthy members of the general public. And this current consumer sentiment puts a significant ramp up in travel starting in July. So we expect Q1 performance to remain significantly stalled, with slight increases in Q2 and hopefully a coming surge of the good kind in in Q3. So short term, some continued hardships, but towards the end of the year, as Jose Suarez mentioned, lots of reason for optimism. With that, consumer receptiveness to travel inspiration is at a pandemic high. In this week's coronavirus travel sentiment from destination analysts, there was a 5-point increase in travelers who say that the vaccines make them more optimistic about life returning to normal in the next 6 months. We also know that booking patterns have changed in recent weeks as consumers consider what travel looks like later in the year. So using data from our partners at Adara that track search and booking behavior, we know that families, as well as couples and solo travelers, have extended their booking window recently, with families now booking 61 to 90 days out, when just a month ago, that was less than 30 days. So it really is a good time to be messaging to consumers. They're receptive to travel messaging and ready to plan and book for later in the year. With that, I'll turn it over to Chief Marketing Officer Leah Chandler.
Thanks, Alicia. We continue to use our COVID-19 action plan to guide activities related to marketing and communications. In our last meeting, we were firmly planted in the regroup phase as extremely strict measures, including alcohol sales restrictions, Sunday lockdowns, and beach closures remained in place. Following the recent executive order today, we are transitioning between the regroup and rebound phases. Beaches have opened, capacities have increased, and the curfew has been reduced. The DMO is still marketing for future plans and bookings. However, we have shifted to a more neutral tone. We're not throwing open the gates and declaring we're open for business, but we are letting people know Americans can travel to Puerto Rico right now. Specifically, we have removed the essential travel only language from our advisory to help in communicating our progress in reopening. From a communications perspective, we're continuously updating our public-facing messaging to inform and educate. The diaspora continues to be an important audience for us, and over the holiday season, we doubled our efforts to ensure they were informed about the latest measures and requirements, and we're going to continue to do that in the coming months. We revised our COVID-19 messaging that informs our website travel advisory, consumer Q&A, and MICE materials, and are disseminating information to US and international media to keep Puerto Rico top of mind and seek thought leadership opportunities to share Puerto Rico's outlook for 2021. Recently, the CDC implemented a new rule going into effect January 26th, requiring all international travelers to provide a negative COVID-19 test to arrive in the US. The requirement does not apply to travelers arriving from Puerto Rico, given we're a US territory. All trips to and from Puerto Rico are considered domestic travel. This information has been updated in our travel guidelines. In addition, we've communicated this to media from hard news to travel to trade and everything in between to ensure their articles include Puerto Rico's exemption. As you've likely seen in recent pieces like USA Today and others, media are including this information. Given this critical advantage for Puerto Rico, we will also be including it in all communications moving forward. If you have any questions about how the new CDC rule affects the travel experience in Puerto Rico, please reference our travel guidelines on our website. As you might have seen in all of our channels recently, we launched the Adopt a Coquí program over the holidays in partnership with Conservación Conciencia to highlight Puerto Rico's natural offerings while educating future travelers about the importance of enjoying our natural resources in a safe and responsible way, as many are going to be looking to explore the outdoors in the new year. This was an awareness driving activation that really yielded incredible results for us. The program was very well received, and we've decided to extend it beyond the holidays. Ketchum has identified additional moments in time to continue getting coverage for the destination, such as Valentine's Day and Earth Day, among others. Thus far, the program has garnered more than 412 million earned media impressions with coverage in top tier publications, including the Washington Post, Forbes, and AFAR, just to name a few. Conservación Conciencia received more than 200 certificate requests, with all of those donations going directly to their organization. This partnership is really a prime example of how we can create meaningful connections with local organizations with like-minded values as we promote Puerto Rico as a prime destination for future travel. The Adopt a Coquí initiative reached 190,000 consumers across our social channels, and the social post with the most engagement was the actual certificate we posted on Instagram, which garnered a reach of 51,000. Given the continuous shift of travel sentiment, and as we learn more regarding the deployment of vaccines, we're pushing ourselves to ideate creative tactics that will garner media coverage to keep the destination top of mind as people begin to think of their 2021 travel plans. In celebration of National Plan for Vacation Day on January 26th, which is an effort led by USTA, we've partnered with JetBlue and the San Juan Marriott to invite travelers to pick any week in 2021 and block their calendars for a trip to Puerto Rico. While hesitation to travel continues for valid reasons, taking a simple first step of blocking that time in your calendar increases the chances of it actually happening. 3 winners will receive a trip to Puerto Rico courtesy of partners JetBlue and the San Juan Marriott, and 100 participants will receive additional prizes to prepare them for their highly anticipated and much needed vacation in 2021. We're really excited to launch this activation along with our valued partners as we continue to safeguard that future visitation to the island. The events of the past 10 months have all of us rethinking the way we travel, and considerations like health, safety, and social distancing are now part of our normal lexicon. As we encourage planning for future travel, we're working around an earned driving concept called Population U. The end goal is to encourage would-be travelers to consider Puerto Rico for their 2021 safe, socially distanced travel plans. We will highlight Puerto Rico's abundant nature and adventure options with areas that were made for social distancing. For travelers to discover our hidden gems, we're working with different partners across the island to identify the spots for us to highlight throughout the activation. So we'll continue to share additional details as they become available. And we've outlined moments and events to leverage in the new year. Topics such as remote work, National Plan for Vacation Day, and Valentine's Day, among others, will be pursued proactively to garner coverage that benefits the entire destination. And lastly, our news engine machine never turns off. These are ongoing opportunities to insert Puerto Rico into conversation. What you see here is just a sample of some of the coverage Ketchum has secured for the destination. Again, not everyone is comfortable with the idea of vacationing right now, but media are still seeking these types of stories as they continue to focus on future travel. And to increase the desirability of our destination, we have to make sure Puerto Rico remains in those news cycles. Now I'm going to pass the presentation quickly to JP Polo to provide a general update and results on our series, Sounds Like Puerto Rico.
Thanks, Leah, and Happy New Year to everyone. Sounds Like Puerto Rico is a new concept for us as we continue to explore content ideas to help keep Puerto Rico top of mind and showcase our entire island. Discover Puerto Rico sees the true potential in entertaining and educational narrative content that elevates the destination and inspires people to travel here. Our series focuses on Puerto Rico lingo, nuestra jerga, and the beautiful sounds of nature our island makes. In each episode, our hosts are on a quest to find the meaning of some of Puerto Rico's top sayings used in activities like surfing, nature, gastronomy, and culture. Sounds Like Puerto Rico was developed, produced, directed, filmed, hosted, and edited in-house with support from local freelancers. A team 100% Puerto Rican. Our team shot 5 short-form episodes ranging from 5 to 10 minutes each. In total, our series highlights 9 municipalities across the island. Our first episodes included surfing, coffee culture, bird watching, el yunque, and our Taino roots, and even one on reggaeton. The series launched on December 7th on our YouTube channel, as well as on its own landing page on discoverpuertorico.com. To date, the Sounds Like Puerto Rico video series has reached over 3.4 million users on our social channels with nearly 11,000 YouTube views and over 600 hours of watching time. Our Facebook reach and shares have increased exponentially during the series distribution, including reaching over 800,000 Facebook users. Now I'll pass the presentation over back to Leah.
Sorry guys, it's me again. Okay, we wanted to share with you today a snapshot of our media plans through the end of the fiscal year, which is June 2021. So here you're going to see the percentages of media investment by funding source. CARES Act is the largest at 53%, followed closely by CDBG, which is not 100% finalized at 42%. Our core media budget is the smallest, totaling only 5% of investment over the next 6 months. I share this to sort of build on information shared earlier by Peko, our board chair. While funding sources like CARES and CDBG will allow us to come out of the gate strongly as we begin to welcome back tourists, the momentum will not be sustainable without significant core funding. Our CARES funds will support our tourism recovery and promote safe travel. We officially launched the CARES Act media program at the beginning of January. Thanks to a year-long extension to invest these funds, this media plan will be spread through June 2021. With a strategy that's focused on health and safety education, here's a look at our media mix, which includes, for the first time ever, spot TV, as we continue to generate awareness in really high funnel placements. Our spot TV buy will be a 6-week flight with a 1-week hiatus starting the week of March 15th through May 10th. We shifted this later in the year than the previous plan called for, as travel sentiment has been on the decline, as Alicia mentioned. The markets receiving this flight are New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, Baltimore, DC, and Chicago, with the highest day part in prime, cable, and sports. As we've shared before, here's a side-by-side look quickly at our targeting strategies pre-COVID and how we will be approaching the CARES plan. We continue to add on the layers to target those travelers who are most receptive to following the protocols and policies that are in place on the island. And we're seeing increases in performance both month over month and year over year in our website metrics. Notably, the increases in website sessions continue to show traveler interest, and substantial increases in organic traffic is credited to our aggressive content strategy. Since the site's launch, 371,433 referrals have been generated to tourism businesses and points of interest from discoverpuertorico.com. And we've added 23,000 subscribers to our e-newsletter program. We continue to update the remote work landing page and supporting content on the website. Now live is a page featuring deals and special offers from various lodging partners. This page is now accessible via the site's navigation, and you'll find it under Planning Essentials. Regarding MICE marketing for Q1, we have significant advertising buys with our strategic partners, CVent and other mainstream MICE media outlets. Research indicates that planners will be researching and sourcing destinations for late 2021 and beyond. With the "it's time to plan" messaging in print and digital mediums will become top of mind as planners are making these important decisions. To keep the momentum going in Q2, we'll be focused on past top performing placements in LinkedIn and ePro, as well as print and digital packages with Meetings Today. PCMA Convening Leaders is one of the meetings industry's largest and most important events, and is an important kickoff to 2021. With CARES Act funding, we were able to secure an important sponsorship for this all virtual event that includes sponsorship of the Digital Experience Institute, which includes 6 sessions, and the on-demand fitness series featuring our breathing, yoga, and meditation videos. And here's a quick sample of the earned media coverage we've secured for MICE trade publications in partnership with CAPTIONS. And with that, I'm going to pass the presentation over to our Chief Sales Officer, Ed Carey, for more on our sales.
Great. Thank you so much, Leah. And good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope you enjoyed the holidays. As we are continuing the process of activating key travel buyers, it's clear that the corporate, individual, and leisure segments will be the first to recover. So throughout the period of the restrictions, we've remained very engaged with our most important buyers. And now, with the help of the recent funds received through the CARES Act, we've developed co-op agreements and urgent strategies to reactivate those with the most potential when the restrictions are further lifted. In fact, at our Sales and Revenue Committee meeting earlier this week, the Chief Marketing Officer of our single largest producing consortia spoke with our hoteliers about their priorities in the coming months and their love of Puerto Rico. Our partners are anxious to work with us, and they're excited to continue bringing business to Puerto Rico. So for the next several minutes, I would like to turn the presentation over to our Director of Leisure Sales, Francisco Blanche, to walk you through an overview of our leisure strategy in the coming months.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning, everyone. Wish you a very happy 2021. During 2020, we have remained active with a strategy of partnering with key associations, consortia, and accounts by establishing co-op agreements, which have afforded us access to their agency base and implement activities and marketing placement to maintain and grow destination and brand awareness. We received assistance from CARES Act, and we decided to continue investing in those partnerships, especially those that have substantial interest and coverage of the destination. Strategically, we wanted to partner with those accounts that have the most focus, the most properties, and the most potential selling in Puerto Rico. As you can see in this slide, AAA, for example, with 20 rated hotels throughout the island and 5 more that have recently applied and are awaiting inspection. There is a total of 45 AAA hotels in Puerto Rico. ABC's merging with CCRA, as well as Travel Leaders becoming part of Internova, is another powerful group of brands and agencies that continuously sell Puerto Rico as a whole, including West and South regions hotels. TravelSafe, as Ed was mentioning, being the top producing consortia through GDS channels in 2020. And Vax Vacation Access, the most complete booking tool for more than 100,000 agents, featuring access to several wholesale partners, including all but one of the airline vacation programs to Puerto Rico. Last but not least, Virtuoso, whose support has been invaluable and not only covers the appointed hotels, but also all hotels contracted with the Virtuoso authorized wholesalers, which combined feature more than 70 hotels in the destination. These partnerships give us the access to their client base, as well as the reach to key activities, tapping into all transient segments, as mentioned before, by way of the activities and marketing placement, such as banners, promo offers, e-blasts, and presence in their social media. Here we see examples of e-blast carried out with ASTA, CCRA, and Virtuoso in 2020. And behind these, the banners and offers, we have a wide range of sales activities. Trainings, webinars, calls to agents, promotion implementation, such as bonus percentages when booking packages to Puerto Rico, opening doors to the time when in-person calls and trade shows happen again. This ongoing strategy has helped us stay connected, continue educating agents, and maintain awareness, keeping Puerto Rico top of mind. Emphasizing our sense of urgency and focused on the fact that we need to impact markets immediately, this strategy has already targeted and secured us sales activities for the first trimester of 2021. However, these efforts, thoughtful and strategic as they are meant to promote the entire destination. Stakeholder individual reach, contracting, RFP participation and bidding, and reaching agreements with each of these organizations is key in order to reap the full benefit of our actions. Thank you for your attention today, and now I leave you back with Ed Carey.
Thank you, Francisco. You know, at the monthly updates, we've been talking to you quite a bit about meeting planner sentiment. And the fact is that we know that hybrid meetings will be a part of our future for at least some time to come. However, meeting planners are actually having a difficult time understanding how to use this, to monetize it, and to make it more of a tool within their meetings strategy. In fact, the confidence in virtual events has actually been steadily declining from month to month. And whether or not we should be meeting in person is being debated, but the majority believe we should absolutely be meeting face-to-face if we can do so safely. 2/3 of planners say we should be meeting, with 15% responding, absolutely, we need to get back to business. And nearly half, or 48%, are saying yes, if proper protocols are followed and enforced. So with the promising news about the vaccines being widely distributed, we expect this sentiment to grow even stronger. The Discover Puerto Rico sales team will stay closely engaged with the meeting planning community, especially as the demand for face-to-face meetings grow. We're going to continue to have a mix of virtual and live events, and we're preparing for in-person site inspections and smaller fam trips as the destination reopens. We intend to focus first on serious buyers with pending leads from each of our regions, as well as those that we lost due to the many challenges we've faced in the last 2 years. And we've been scheduling meetings with our hotel partners to collaborate even more closely on specific segments, accounts, and events, and are working hard to ensure that we're flexible and we're easy to do business with. New lead room nights are still below last year as many planners continue to focus on rebooking business. And they've yet to schedule new meetings, but it has been consistent and it is improving from month to month. And our pipeline of new business opportunity has been holding steady. And we are confident we can once again rebuild it to the levels that we enjoyed in 2019. And as I mentioned earlier, we will continue to have a presence at the most important trade shows and are ready to schedule sales missions and road shows in market as soon as we reasonably can. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Xiomara.
Thank you, Ed. Now for our last guest speaker of the day, let's welcome Foundation for Puerto Rico's President and COO, Ms. Annie Mayol, Oscar Alejandro Rodriguez, and Anthony Rivera from Digiontech.
Thank you, Xiomara. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. Early in the pandemic, Puerto Rico implemented strict public safety measures that kept the incidence of COVID-19 extremely low. The only way COVID could get in the island will be through our ports. Our Foundation for Puerto Rico, we saw this situation both as an opportunity as well as a threat. Right now, we have, one second, I'm having some technical problems. I apologize for this. I'm just trying to make sure I can, my computer. Here we go. How could Puerto Rico protect itself from a virus that was raging in New York or Florida if we were going to have many daily flights coming from those very same places? In February, at Foundation for Puerto Rico, we were looking to find a way to protect our ports from the virus so our economy could reopen. And so that by becoming COVID-free destination, we will defy the odds. In March, Foundation for Puerto Rico, in collaboration with a group of industry experts, produced a detailed study that proposed to address the crisis through the implementation of a biological border model. March, we had our first COVID case. On March 18th, the airport began checking arriving passengers' temperatures, but it quickly became clear that wouldn't work because asymptomatic cases were a major part of a spread of infections. By March 28th, there was a limited testing capability at the airport and throughout the island. By April, voices were clamoring to shut down the airport, and the government was seriously considering that possibility, one that would be catastrophic to the destination and to our overall economy. What is the biological border? A multifaceted screening and testing mechanism aimed at dramatically reducing the arrival of COVID infection by identifying and appropriately managing COVID risk among arriving passengers. On July, the BioBorder model was partially implemented when the travel declaration form, traveler pre-testing, and other requirements were put in place by the government's executive order. The BioBorder approach sought to ensure that individuals were screened for infection before they board a flight or upon arrival at the airport, while minimizing requirements and facilitating entry for those who represented a lower risk. Now that vaccination is underway, we're incorporating in the process the concept of expedite treatment, not only for travelers with negative PCR tests, but for those who can present proof of vaccination or have tested positive for antibodies. Allowing people who are already immune to easily visit our destination will allow travel to recover quicker and for us to be recognized globally as a safe destination. Why is the BioBorder important? With this strategy in place, we open our destination in a safe way for our residents and visitors alike by protecting them from new external infection, including new, more contagious strains. Many are realizing the importance of this strategy to keep our economies open. And as you know, a federal policy requiring PCR pre-testing for all international arrivals was put in place this January. I'm now going to leave you with Digiontech, Department of Health's technical development team that built TravelSafe.pr.gov. the online platform where travelers complete the travel declaration form and receive additional information on the entry requirements to our destination. Foundation for Puerto Rico has collaborated with this team for over the last 5 months, designing a new version that includes additional critical questions and incorporates a risk assessment engine that will allow us to differentiate travelers who represent a low risk of infection versus those that represent a higher risk. The information that we compile through this risk assessment engine will allow our government to make smart, data-based decisions and respond to complex, changing landscape, accelerating our recovery moving forward, and especially that of our economically critical travel destination. Our island is at a turning point in the COVID-19 crisis. Vaccines are beginning to be available for the broader population. If the vaccination process is managed diligently, our jurisdiction can be one of the first ones to achieve high-level immunity during 2021. For more information about the BioBorder, you can go to our website at foundationforpuertorico.org. Thank you for your engagement and your support. Here's Oscar Rodriguez, Software Development Manager at Dion Tech.
Thank you, Annie. I'm Oscar Rodriguez. I am a Systems Architect and Software Development Manager at Dion Tech. So we had 4 main goals when we wanted to make this BioBorder. One of them is to protect the population from potential external infections. The other was to provide our Puerto Rican community with necessary confidence to be able to reopen travel and its local economy in a responsible manner. Additionally, we wanted to ensure that travelers that posed a low risk of infection or were immune could enjoy our island responsibly. And then we also wanted to provide information that would help our government make data-based decisions to respond to the changing landscape and complexity of the pandemic as it progresses, accelerating our recovery and resilience. Now at Dion Tech, we wanted to create an efficient solution that would allow us to manage and track the traffic on our several points of entries in the island. This would let airport administrators and the Department of Health better respond to the pandemic by leveraging the advantage that Puerto Rico possesses of access control. This made possible the travel declaration form. Now, with the help of Foundation for Puerto Rico, we created Puerto Rico's first digital biological border with the capabilities of capturing data from travelers and connecting it directly to Puerto Rico's pandemic emergency response systems, such as El Bioportal, through a network of instantaneous, secure web-based communications. Our app allows users to create a traveler account where they can view and manage all their Puerto Rico-bound trips. This way, a user will always have access to their QR code, which is necessary to enter the island. Users can also directly upload COVID-19 test results through the app, and now the app allows the submittal of vaccination reports. Additionally, our application allows frequent travelers to return from the app using their unique account and adding a trip and its information to the system, reusing all the user's data that was submitted the first time. This dramatically shortens the amount of time it takes to fill the travel declaration form for returning users. And lastly, thanks to the risk assessment engine integrated into our solution, multiple user specified fields are weighed by the engine automatically to give us a specific risk index that can be used to calculate the risk a traveler possesses when entering the island. Now, I would like to introduce the Chief Executive Officer of Dion Tech, Anthony Rivera.
I think Anthony is having some technical difficulties. There we go. Welcome back, Anthony.
I need some training with this Zoom in order to work well with the microphone. Well, I was saying thank you, Oscar, and thank you, Annie. A great presentation, very well explained. Proud of you guys. Hello all, my name is Anthony Rivera. I'm the CEO of Dion Tech. And I would like to add a little bit of information to what the guys just said and the team just represented. The Department of Health, DEON Tech, and Foundation for Puerto Rico continue to develop tech solutions based on research and data to ensure that the safety of our citizens and travelers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Innovation is paramount, not just to recover the industry, but to ensure the safety of our travelers and local citizens. We recognize that there might be new developments in the future that we need to be ready to confront. But these efforts show that the power of multi-sectoral collaboration across government, private, and non-profit sector to tackle the pressing challenges that we face with this pandemic. It's only through collaboration we'll develop the innovative thinking and problem-solving acumen necessary to succeed. You can be a part of this effort by informing travelers and colleagues of the requirements to enter our island and the latest COVID-19 measures in place. On behalf of the Secretary of the Department of Health, Foundation for Puerto Rico, and the DEON Tech team, we would like to thank you for your audience, your collaborating efforts, and continued support on striving towards saving lives and keeping our travelers and citizens safe. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you to our executive leadership team and to all of our guest speakers for the information provided. Now I was muted. So thank you, Anthony, and thank you to all of our guest speakers and the executive leadership team for the information they provided today. We unfortunately have run out of time, so we won't be able to address questions in this session. However, we will take the questions in the Q&A box and send you the answers for those via email. Also, I want to mention that the webinar was recorded today. So later this week, you will receive a link to a recording so that you can replay it at your convenience and share it with colleagues who were not able to tune in today. My email is on the screen. So please feel free to reach out to me if after the webinar you have additional questions or need any additional information. Lastly, I want to remind you that at the end of the webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We want to continue providing you with information on the topics that are most relevant to you. So please go ahead and fill that out. I also want to tell you before we leave to go ahead and mark your calendars for our next industry update, which will be Wednesday, February 17th at 10 a.m. The invitation will go out pretty soon with the registration link. So be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next one.